Let me take you to KwaZulu-Natal. We have Ronald Masinda, that is, who is on standby with the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Sihle Zikalala. Ronald, what is happening? What is the Premier saying this morning?
Tulas, a very good morning to you. We are at a value logistics warehouse where it's been looted. We're also seeing fire, and this is where Premier Sihle Zikalala is at to monitor the situation. He's also here to brief the media about some of the plans the province will put in place in order to try and curb the looting that we've seen throughout the course of the week. Premier, thank you so much for your time. First of all, what are some of your plans?
The plans is to be on the ground, but also the plan is to ensure that there is coordination. We think there is a lack of coordination between police and the Metro Police. There is visible lack of policing, which we need to take on place, because we can't afford to have such a situation and not be on the ground. And that is what we would want to raise. We have dispersed a lot of people here, and I'm sure you saw for yourself. But if we didn't take that and come on our own, I'm sure that those people would have still been here looting. I can tell you that more than millions of items are lying around, and all of that needs to be collected back. We will be calling industries per their own industrial park, ensure that they are coordinated and supported. So we would want to ensure stability right from today, and we're here. We're not going to be all over. We have a plan that focuses in each district, and we will keep this situation.
Right. Premier, in terms of an update with regards to the deployment of police, can you give us perhaps a number, and also just in terms of numbers, the latest figures in terms of arrests made and possible deaths?
We will give those details later in terms of arrest. You see, we are arresting them now. Just one of them was arrested in front of you. So we can't update you on numbers. We'll give that at the end of the day. But the numbers, I'm sure, are getting to thousands now. But beside that, we're beefing up police. We are talking to the minister, the commissioner in the province, and we are now having soldiers. They have been added. They will be in all areas so that we keep this thing right from now.
Premier, you mentioned earlier the concern of the lack of police visibility, and why is that? Why are we still talking about the issue of a lack of police visibility? And in terms of the army's deployment, what role will they play, and which are the hardest hit areas?
Hardest hit areas are industrial parks, such as these areas where you've got light industries, and areas around Durban, the malls, especially in Maritzburg and Durban. So we're dealing with all of that, but we see that it is now escalating, where they were some people were trying to invade community residential areas, and we're not going to allow that. So we have a plan that goes to residential, industrial park, and monitor the CBD.
You've been quoted as saying that you are calling for the former president as well to be released from jail. Do you stand by it? Do you feel that a lot of the looting that has taken place here is because of people who are disgruntled that former President Zuma is in jail?
No, former President Zuma's arrest is paining a lot of people, not only in KwaZulu-Natal, but in the country. But what is happening now with criminality, it has nothing to do with former President Zuma. Former President Zuma can't instruct people to loot. We know him. He is one who fought for peace. By the mere fact that he agreed to surrender himself to law enforcement, he was complying. And this is not part of that compliance. So this cannot be done in the name of former President Zuma.
Does your government have things in control, Premier, before I let you go? Because I know you are very busy.
We are MECs who are here. We are going to maintain stability. We are working with law enforcement, and we will be on the ground. We will enforce stability.
Premier, we will chat again later. Tell us, Premier Sihle Zikalala is still going on a walkabout to check out some of the affected areas here in Cato Ridge. We will continue our conversation with him once he addresses the media formally in a gathering. We do know that he's also flanked by several other MECs here in the province, but what we are seeing is more devastation at another factory that has been looted. We're also seeing quite a number of people who, when we arrived here a few minutes ago, running away with diesel, and that also speaks to about the issues faced with fueling stations. Many fueling stations are without fuel, given that trucks are unable to come to KwaZulu-Natal, fearing that they too might be torched.
All right, thank you for that. That's eNCA's Ronald Masinda out in KwaZulu-Natal there, speaking to the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, that is Sihle Zikalala, who alludes to the question of whether or not what we are seeing now can still be linked to the protests that were the spark of some of the unrest we saw in the early days after the arrest of former President Jacob Zuma, who, by the way, will have been in prison for exactly 7 days at around 11 p.m. tonight. The view of Premier Sihle Zikalala being that the former president's arrest pains a lot of people, but he's not the one who is instructing people to loot. He can't have been the one who instructed people to loot. That is the view there from Sihle Zikalala. It's an open-ended question. You can give it your own interpretation. To what extent do the people who were fanning the earlier flames bear the responsibility of whatever criminality was then took root and continued to fan the flames beyond the initial protest? To what extent do they bear the responsibility for that? Is a question that really I don't want to weigh in. I will leave that to you. Do we absolve them? The Azkale crowd, do we absolve them of all responsibility and say it's now purely criminality? To what extent did they aid and abet and encourage people? You be the judge on that question.